Welcome to the Side Hustle Dad, the podcast for fathers who are creating financial freedom without sacrificing their families. I'm Brian Steele, and on this show, we're covering the mindset, strategies, and tactics of a profitable side hustle. Let's get to work. Welcome back. Hope you enjoyed the holidays, the 4th of July. Hopefully everybody still got all their fingers attached. I know my family really enjoyed it, and I am glad you are joining me here today. I want to tell you a little story about something that happened to me several years ago, and it was an opportunity to follow a side quest. Now, of course, many of you having played video games, side quest is that thing that shows up, that little opportunity that is not necessarily the main thing that we're following, but looks interesting, looks like something that could be really intriguing or exciting or give us new expertise or experience or just have some fun. And oftentimes we see that in our businesses. There will be a moment where an opportunity will unexpectedly just come our way. And you find, the old saying about athletes, like, luck is when preparation meets opportunity. I mean, in some cases, that's what these side quests are. We see something come along that we go, man, that looks really good. Like, maybe I should do that. So this happened to me a while back, and I'll share this story. I was working, doing music, and I had been doing podcasting for a little bit, and I received an email. And at the time, it's important to know that scams were really prevalent, like for different business owners. There were all sorts of things like, hey, do you offer these services? And yada, yada. And it was a text scam. And they would try to get money out of it, like, oh, these people are going to come record something with you. And so these scams are kind of going around in these audio circles that I was in. And so I get this email, and it was from a major book publisher, which I was like, that's weird. And they were like, hey, we need to record an audiobook. Could you provide audio recording services for us to do this audiobook? So initially, like, my red flags went up, like, this feels weird. The name was foreign. I couldn't even have pronounced it. So I was like, this seems a bit sketchy. But there was something about it that I was like, I'm just a little curious, right? I mean, an audiobook is tangential to what I do. So I started doing a little investigating, and sure enough, thanks to LinkedIn, I verified that person existed. And according to LinkedIn, they, were actually at that book publisher. They worked for that book publisher, major one that was in New York City. And they actually had given me the name of the author. So I'm like, okay, well, here's another thing to go potentially verify. So I go look up that author. Sure enough, there is an author that is in Kansas by that name, who is releasing a new book. So, okay, well, this seems a little odd, but I said, I'm going to take the call. I'm going to just see what it is they need, and maybe I could do it. And so what ended up happening is I responded. I said, hey, this could be potentially a good opportunity, and yeah, I'd be happy to talk, and maybe this is something I can do for you. Well, it turns out that this author had previously released a book with the same publisher, and to do the audiobook, he had to fly out to New York City and be there for like an entire week while they recorded this audiobook. And he said, I just don't want to be away from home that long. He said, isn't there some place in Kansas that we could do it? So they had actually reached out to a bunch of recording studios, and I was the only one who responded. I was the only one who got back with them. And so we talked about it, and I was honest. I said, I've done podcasting, I've done music production, but this is not something that I've done in the past. I'm confident in my ability to record somebody talking and getting a good, clean recording, but, we just have to figure out the workflow. And they were willing to do that. So I kind of looked at how much time it would be. I was like, okay, well, I want to make this much per hour in my studio. You know what? This is a major book publisher. I'm going to double it for that. And it was going to take a week to do the entire project. And they agreed on the spot, which instantly, I should ask for more money, but that's okay. So we set it up. We agreed to do it. The author came down to Kansas. We actually used Zoom to bring in a director from Colorado. So they would listen in and give feedback on the performance of the audiobook. And at the end of every day, I would take all the raw recordings and send them to an editor, and they were working simultaneously with us. And then if there were issues that they found during the editing, they would contact us and say, hey, here's some additional recordings we need to get done for these spots. And at the end of the day, I had recorded an audiobook. And no one since then has asked for one, but I've brought it up. And there's people who have been like, oh, it's good to know you have that capability because I might be in touch at some point. And while it's not an offer I make regularly, it's not created some new booming business, I am glad that I took that chance to follow that side quest because I gained a new experience. I gained a new application for my skills, and it was fun. It was new. It was fresh. And so what I want to encourage you with today is not be afraid of some of those opportunities that will come along, but be curious, be willing to investigate and find out a little more, because you never know where these side quests may take you. It may turn out to be something that's even better than what you're doing with your own business on the side, and there may be something better to grow from it. So I want to give you 5 filters that you can evaluate all of these opportunities through. So the first thing is what I did. Do a little investigation, do some research, use some of your sales skills. Like, is this legit? Do they have a budget? I mean, honestly, AI is a great tool for asking some of these questions. If it's a little tangent to what you've done in the past and you're heading out into some uncharted territories, kind of understand what the scope is. Like, how many days is it going to take me to do this? What are good benchmarks for this? What can somebody expect to be quoting for a price? And you don't have to lean on any of those, because acknowledging this is new for you, you don't have to use any of that exactly. But it's good to make sure you understand what their scope is, what their expectations are, and if it seems legitimate. If they're just thinking, oh, well, it's something new for you, I thought it'd be great and it could give you some new exposure, turn it away, go away, right? That book publisher was in New York City. They were expecting to spend plenty of money on making the audiobook, and they expected that audiobook to generate a return right back around. So they were willing to invest the money in making sure they had a good studio to work with. So do not be afraid to make sure that this is legit, that there is somebody who's really actually investing in this and needs some help, and that it's something in the vein of what you could do. The second thing that I recommend is make sure you're upfront. You can say in these situations, hey, this is not something I normally do. This is a little bit outside of the scope. Normally I'm doing these things. This is how I work. This is my business. This is how I promise delivery. But I think I'm capable of doing this. I'm sure we could talk through how it needs to happen. But if you're willing to be a little patient in the setup, and if we run into any technical challenges or issues, we'll work together to resolve those. You can bring that honesty. You do not have to pretend that you have it already figured out and so they should absolutely hire you, because then that conveys to them that any hiccups, any unexpected things that come along, it shouldn't have happened. You know what you're doing. You're the expert. Why are these sorts of things going on? So I always want to say, like, up front, be honest. When I was talking to that publisher, I said, yeah, I'm comfortable recording. I do podcasts. I do this sort of thing all the time, but haven't done an audiobook. So it's going to be a lot longer form reading. Is the guest going to get, is the author going to get tired? How long is it going to take? What to look for in the performance, stuff like that was not necessarily stuff I had expertise with, but I communicated that up front. And we were able to figure out, the lane that I would fit in for doing the work, and then go from there. And I think that it worked really, really well. They were happy with the end result. It's an audiobook out there. You could download it on Audible if you wanted to right now. The point being is that we never want to misrepresent what we are doing and what our experience is. We can be completely transparent and base our confidence in the skill from these other domains that we already operate in. So what you've normally done for your business has given you a skill set and a competency. And so you're saying, hey, I do this. I really am good at it. So this is just a new application for it. So if you're willing to So, if there's any hiccups that we have to work through, I think we could figure that out and move forward. And that's really how you want to approach it. That honesty is of a lot of value to potential customers on these side quests where they're seeing you as a potential collaborator. So that'd be the second thing. So number 3, does this offer some long-term potential? Do you see a path where maybe there's an offer you can make based on learning this or trying this new avenue? Doesn't mean that it's going to work out. You may do the project and go, you know what, that was good, but it's not something for me to do long-term. And that's fine. But that's the approach that you want to take. You want to evaluate it and go, do I think that this is something that might lead to more opportunities, more long-term growth down the road for my business? And maybe you don't pivot wholly to this new avenue, but when somebody comes to you, it says there's a need that is not being met by the marketplace. When somebody comes to you and says, can you do this other thing? It means that there's nobody else in that space, which means you have no competition, which is fantastic. So if there's a market for these sorts of things, there may be longer opportunities where it's easier to get clients and you're not struggling with marketing and things like that as much. So evaluate it. Is there some long-term potential there? Doesn't mean that you will, but does it look like there could be? And if so, that's a good project to take. Number 4, the asset leverage rule. The question is here, do I already have what I need for the most part to get this project done? Or am I going to have to go invest in a bunch of equipment that I don't already have? Do I already have the skills to accomplish 80% of the task? Does my experience feed directly into this? If I'm a plumber and somebody asks me for a landscaping project, those are totally different skill sets. They're totally different tools needed. There's not any clear alignment between them. So it starts to feel a little less like something we should pursue. If I'm somebody who does landscaping and I put together flower beds and take care of them, and somebody wants mowing, I likely have some of the equipment for that, right? There's some things and it's connected to what I'm already doing and what I'm already building. So you can start to see there's an overlap between the businesses, between the opportunities. So look at that. When somebody's asking you for this opportunity, is there a good amount of overlap between your skills, your experience, your interests, and what you're already doing? And if so, then that's a good side quest. But if they're really separate and you struggle to find those connections, or it's going to require you to get a whole bunch of equipment you don't already have, then maybe that's something you move away from. Now, that isn't to say that you don't invest in equipment, right? When I started doing podcasts, video was not a piece of the puzzle, but I got a camera now. So if somebody wanted a video podcast, the lift is just a little different, right? It's okay, well, now we're not just doing audio editing, we're doing some video editing. So a little more equipment needed, but the microphones are still involved. Not a lot of changes otherwise. So there's a natural progression that you can see coming along with that, and you just grow with it. But again, if they're separate and it's going to be a big lift to make that shift, then I would say maybe it's something you just let go and say, that's not really what I'm trying to build. So there's just not enough connection there between what you're already doing and what this opportunity is potentially bringing you. And then finally, the family margin test. Does this require you to just disappear for 2 weeks? Does it require a different level of effort than what your side hustle already is demanding? Is this something that fits into the existing boundaries around your family that you've already got? Now, maybe there's an opportunity you want to explore, so it is something that you want to make a temporary adjustment on. But we got to be careful here. We've intentionally established boundaries around the businesses that we're building. So we don't want this to bleed too much into those areas. So we just have to take a step back, go, does this fit with what I'm wanting to build, with the goals for this business? Does it provide new opportunities? And can I fit it within what I'm wanting to already be building? Or is it something really new and uncomfortable? Maybe there's some need to do a little pivoting and adjusting, and then you can say yes. But if it's going to demand a lot more than what you're wanting to put into it at this point in time, then it's okay to let those projects go. It's all right. You don't have to chase every opportunity that comes your way. But those are the 5 filters I would just use to be a lens as these opportunities come your way. What is it that you should say yes to, or at least be willing to explore more? So let's go through those 5 real quick. First, make sure it's legit. Do a bit of research, understand what their budget is, what is typical budgets, what are these projects normally worth, and is that something you still are interested in? Number 2, being honest about where you're really at, because obviously this is a new pivot, but bring that radical honesty to the conversation. Number 3, does it have some long-term potential? Do you see this being something you would be willing to build in the future? Number 4, does it connect enough to your existing skills and equipment, or is it going to require you to invest and pivot in a whole new direction, which is going to take time and effort and money that you really don't have? And finally, does it fit within the boundaries that you've already established with your family on how you're going to work with your side hustle? Use those 5 filters, think about it. I am curious what random opportunities have come your way. So if you're watching me on YouTube, you're listening on Spotify, there's a comment feature there. If you've had an unexpected opportunity come your way that has turned out to be a really valuable side quest, I would love to hear about it. So just leave a comment. I think that'd be fun to share with one another, and who knows, maybe we'll talk about it on a future episode. Thank you for joining me. I'm excited to see you again next week with another episode. Thanks.
Thanks for joining us today. If you enjoyed the show, there's 3 ways you can help us out. First, subscribe on whatever podcast app you're using. That makes sure you never miss another episode. Second, leave us a review so that other people know this is a show worth listening to. And finally, if you've already done those, tell a friend. So many people find their favorite podcast because somebody told them about it. Thanks again, and remember, build the side hustle, but be the dad.
This show is part of the ICT Podcast Network. For more information, visit ictpod.net.